Hold up, we're back. What have we been up to? Well, as you can imagine, we're in the business of making games, and Need for Speed games at that. So you can probably guess where this is going, but for those who haven't, a new Need for Speed game will be released later in 2019. But we have mentioned time and time again that Need for Speed 2019 is coming this year. It's been announced by many different things, for example, from press calls to press releases, talking about how 2019 is going to be a thing. Well, today we got an kind of announcement that it's not going to be at E3. This year is going to be a bit of a special one for Need for Speed 2, as we're turning 25 years. We've had almost 25 years of going fast, and we can't wait to kickstart our 26th with the next Need for Speed game. And while we've had some great memories over those 25 years, we're not here to look back and reminisce. We've got our eyes set firmly on the future, but even while focusing on the future, especially this year, we've also thought a lot about what Need for Speed means to you, and perhaps more importantly, what we hope it will mean as we move forward. Cars naturally top the list. You can say that cars and customization of Need for Speed are the beating heart of what we do. Without either of those, Need for Speed fails to exist as we know it. These two elements play a pivotal role in the series and are two aspects that we consider to be foundational, meaning they aren't going anywhere because Need for Speed wouldn't exist without them. This pretty much sounds like they're taking a step back from Need for Speed Payback, which, as you know, it was a mixed bag, and they're looking more at the 2015 reboot, which they've mentioned before in a post. They actually said that they're looking more at 2015 as a foundation for this game. So this would basically be the continuation as if Payback didn't exist. But it does, because realistically it had some features that were better than 2015. For example, the handling worked much better, as we found out in yesterday's video. But they've clearly understood that Need for Speed Payback didn't really tick everyone's boxes like 2015 did. At least it didn't tick everyone's in 2015, but more so people's in 2015, and what Need for Speed should have been. And after the reboot of 2015, they took a bit of a wrong turn. So they're going back on track following 2015. It's almost kind of like it's a second reboot. But Need for Speed is also the culmination of many different aspects. It's a very special essence that appears when all these aspects come together at a very high quality. An essence that helps create a unique Need for Speed feeling. You could say this essence is our DNA, and that's exactly what we're injecting straight into our next project. For me, I would say in Need for Speed, the main aspects would be cars, car customization, story, cops, and definitely illegal street racing. If illegal street racing isn't in a Need for Speed, it's really not a Need for Speed. But at the same rate, Pro Street, I'm gonna have to rethink what I just said. But overall, it felt somewhat illegal still, because I was a street racer going into professional racing, if that makes sense. I feel like the illegal aspect was replaced with the danger aspect, for example, of the crashing out when you do those speed events. That was still that element there in a way. I know it sounds weird, but in my head that makes sense. Tradition and our above note about the game later this year dictates that this is the time when you'd be eagerly hitting F5 on your social media channels, waiting for that detailed sign of something new for that first teaser to drop. But let's hold fire on that for now, because traditions are all well and good, but they can also be broken and new ones forged. Just because we've done something one way for the last few years doesn't mean we should continue to do so. So this is where they're announcing that Need for Speed will not be announced at E3 or EA Play, EA's version of E3, or that we'll get a teaser beforehand like we generally do. Normally around this time we'd get a teaser and then the actual reveal at E3. Are you going to hear more about the next Need for Speed title? Yes. Is it going to be released this year? Yes. Will we be doing anything in June? No. It's as simple as that. We wanted to give you a heads up before you started asking, where are you? Our goal is to deliver a truly memorable high-speed entry into the 25th year of Need for Speed, rather than a series of promotional events. The game matters most, a sentiment we bet you would share with us. With that, know we're here, we're building an amazing game that we can't wait to show off. And the next time we talk, we'll be packing our bags and heading south for the full unveiling. We'll see you then, the Need for Speed team. But that is pretty much everything. So let's dive in, dig deep, and root out some of this stuff that they've been telling us that are not really hidden, but needs a little bit more explaining. But first up, when will we see the next Need for Speed? So E3 this year has already taken quite a bit of a hit, actually. For example, there's no PlayStation, there's no Activision, and I believe there's no other companies, some other companies as well. But essentially this year is going to be a pretty slow one in terms of announcements for games. I believe Ubisoft is the only one that's really going in with a full-on show. Microsoft is going to be I don't know what Microsoft are going to be doing, to be completely honest with you, because next year, the reason for this is consoles, the next generation consoles, the Xbox 2, whatever, the PlayStation 5 are going to be announced next year. PlayStation, if they follow their tradition, will be the beginning of the year. So realistically, they don't want to push massively their games coming out for next year, which is what they usually do at E3, because next year will be next year's next generation's games. They also mentioned the 25th anniversary Need for Speed quite a lot, and also in the bottom of the article they also mentioned they're heading south. Right underneath Sweden is Germany, right? Gamescom is just before the 25th anniversary of Need for Speed, so very obviously to me it's going to be maybe a teaser at Gamescom and then maybe a full reveal maybe later, but then they say the full unveiling, so maybe it is Gamescom. I just think it's going to be at the end of August. But why are they doing this is my next question. E3 demos take time to create. For example, if you look at the Need for Speed Payback and 2015 demos, the Need for Speed Payback demo was a little bit different, but no matter what you look at, for example, in Forza's case, where they just used the beginning of the game, or in Payback, where they used the event from the game, one of the truck events from the game where you steal the Regera. No matter how you look at it, those things have to be finely tuned and perfected, even though they may be just in the middle of the game. And that takes time away from development because the team has to move off to make the plan and the schedule and everything for the reveal of the game. So realistically, in my mind, it might just be for the fact that they want more time to develop the game, and Gamescom, which would be right at the end of development, would be content lock, and in my head that would mean that they're just focusing on polishing the game at that point. It would make more sense to reveal it then because the game was finished. But another thing along that is that recently games, or I would say recently the last decade, games have been hit massively and shouted at and grrr, because people have spotted that the E3 demos don't exactly look like the final product, and that's been a recurring thing for a long while when it comes to games like this. So it seems like that could also be an aspect of it, because the game will be finished, content locked, and then they reveal it, meaning that everything they show should be in the game. Finally, what else does it tell us? It tells us that they are pretty set on what this game should be, and that it should be like 2015 or Underground, Most Wanted, Carbon aspects, opposed to being like Payback. They took a little bit of a gamble with the Payback thing. I personally understood where they were going. If you look at, for example, Fast and Furious, Need for Speed has always been inspired by Fast and Furious. They wanted to go a little bit more Fast and Furious, and by doing that in this generation, that means going for the crazy, stupid action movies that you get with Fast and Furious, which car people hate, okay? But the mass market like. Realistically, it didn't work really well with the game form. I think ultimately you'd have to be GTA to get that Fast and Furious. GTA is Fast and Furious of the game world, whereas I think Need for Speed needs to stay racing, at least for a while, until that gets stale, but they really haven't perfected the street racing element of the game, so why would they move on so quickly? They understood the mistakes of Payback. They're looking back at Need for Speed 2015. They want more time. They want this to be the best they have created. Overall, we're just going to have to wait that little bit longer to hear about Need for Speed 2019, which I'm still very excited. I'm glad that it's still coming this year. I would be worried that if they announced it a little bit later, it would come maybe February, March in the next year, but it's still coming this year, they say, which is not financial yet. Usually when they speak to people, they speak about people to people, so it surely is going to be November or December. It could be a little bit later, but ultimately it's still going to release this year. That has me excited. That has me hyped. The only other thing to note would be that realistically, are there going to be any racing games this year? There's no Forza, no Need for Speed. The only thing that's really looking to be the case is an expansion for The Crew 2. Can you imagine if Rockstar Games came out of nowhere with a Midnight Club game? It would be the perfect timing to do so, in my personal opinion. But yeah, ultimately there's not going to be that many games coming out from E3 racing game wise this year. You're looking at, as I said, an expansion for The Crew 2, but other than that, there's not going to be any. Forza is completely skipping this year because they're jumping to release the game on the next generation. I would say we're likely to see an expansion for Forza announced at E3, but other than that, it's just going to be expansions upon expansions and nothing but expansions. Had to like add a little bit of an S there to change it up, but ultimately, let me know if you think there's going to be anything else. If I'm wrong, I would love to know, because realistically, It's my job, man. I would love to know your thoughts. Please let me know down in the comments what this says to you. If I missed anything in this article, I think I've pretty much got it. Anyway, smash like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next video. Until next time, peace.